They say in the village of Ubinde that the eye of the leopard sees the beauty of the forest, but only the heart of the leopard knows the sting of the thorn. We look at the great and the wealthy and we sharpen our appetites, wishing to wear their shoes. But sometimes, those shoes are lined with hot coals. Zandile was born into the scent of crisp paper and expensive leather. His father, Chief Osaba, was a man whose wealth was so vast it was said he didn't count his money, he weighed it. From the moment Zandile could crawl, a strange phenomenon began. If the boy touched a dying hibiscus in the garden, it would bloom by sunset. If he dropped a copper coin in the dust, he would find a silver one in its place the next morning. His mother, Mama Effie, watched this with a heart divided between pride and a trembling fear. She knew the ancient wisdom, the river that flows too smoothly hides a hungry crocodile. By his teenage years, Zandile was the sun around which all planets revolved. His schoolmates didn't just like him, they flourished near him. His best friend, a boy from a family of weavers, suddenly saw his father's looms produce silk where there was once only cotton. His teachers won lotteries, his crush found her family's long-lost land deeds. Zandile was the ultimate good luck charm. But while he gave away his pocket money and bought shoes for the shoeless, he noticed a chilling pattern. Every time he made someone else's life better, a small cold patch of skin appeared on his own chest, grey and lifeless, like stone. By the age of 16, Zandile began to understand the isolation of his gift. He was a magnet for people, but for the wrong reasons. He was surrounded by peers who suddenly became best friends just to be near him. They noticed that if they walked home with Zandile, they would find lost jewelry in the grass or receive unexpected gifts from their parents. He became a human four-leaf clover. There was a famous incident where a local bully tried to steal Zandile's lunch. The moment the bully grabbed the bag, he didn't find a sandwich, he found a gold-leafed scroll that contained a map to a hidden cache of ivory his own grandfather had buried. Even his enemies couldn't help but become successful because of him. While the world around him turned to gold, Zandile was turning to dust. One afternoon, while playing a game of soccer, he took off his shirt to cool down. Mama Effie gasped from the veranda. There, right over his heart, was a grey circular patch of skin. It didn't look like a bruise, it looked like a piece of the village's ancient granite monument had been grafted onto his flesh. It was during these years that the mystery deepened. Zandile realized that the good luck he radiated wasn't coming from thin air, it was being mined from his own vitality. The lamp that lights the whole village often burns its own wick to the base, Mama Effie would whisper as she rubbed shea butter on the cold grey spot, trying in vain to bring the warmth back. Chief Osaba, Zandile's father, was not born into gold, he was born into a season of such profound dust and hunger that the cattle died standing up. The secret of the chief was not just a contract, it was a desperate father's attempt to outsmart fate, which backfired into a generational haunting. In his youth, Osaba was a failing farmer. Watching his firstborn daughter, Zandile's older sister whom the family never speaks of, waste away from a simple fever because he couldn't afford a healer. Osaba walked to the banks of the Red River. There, he met the spirit of the Red Earth, a creature with eyes like polished rubies and a voice like grinding stones. Osaba didn't just ask for money, he asked for the unstoppable harvest. He wanted everything he touched to turn into a solution for poverty. The spirit smiled, a sound like a cracking dry branch, and gave him a heavy, grey seed. "Swallow this," the spirit said. "It will turn your blood into a magnet for prosperity. But remember, the heart cannot hold two masters. If you allow the warmth of a soulmate's love to enter your chest, the cold wealth will take up the space where the love tried to sit. It will turn you to stone, inch by inch, starting from the ribs and moving to the breath." Osaba returned and became a titan of industry. He married Mama Effie, a woman of incredible spirit. But the tragedy began on their wedding night. As she reached out to embrace him with genuine soul-deep affection, Osaba felt a sharp crystalline snap in his chest. A patch of skin the size of a coin turned gray. He realized then that the spirit was literal. He could have partners, he could have allies, and he could have heirs, but he could never have intimacy. To protect his life and his growing empire, Osoba became a master of emotional cruelty. He began to treat Mama Effie like an employee. He replaced hugs with jewelry. He replaced I love you with here is the deed to a new estate. Whenever he felt himself softening toward his son Zandile, he would intentionally pick a fight or leave the country for months to freeze his heart back into safety. By the time Zandile was a teenager, Chief Osoba was already 60% stone. He wore heavy layered robes even in the sweltering heat to hide the fact that his legs no longer bled when cut. The night he set Zandile down in the gilded vault, the air smelled of ozone and ancient earth. You think I am a cold man, Zandile, the chief had rasped, his lungs clicking like clockwork. But I am a man who has stayed alive by sheer force of will. Every time I looked at your mother and wanted to tell her she was my world, I felt the stone move an inch closer to my throat. I sacrificed the touch of a woman's hand so that you would never know the hunger I knew as a boy. He showed Zandile the contract, not written on paper, but etched into the very wall of the vault in glowing red veins. It stated that the gift would pass to the firstborn male, and with it, the weight. Osoba believed he had found a way to beat the spirit. He told Zandile, if you never seek a soulmate, the stone will never grow. Live for the masses, not for the one. This was the great deception. Osoba didn't realize that the sun cannot choose not to shine. A good man like Zandile could not help but attract love because of his kindness. By being a saint, Zandile was inadvertently inviting the very love that would trigger the curse. The chief died thinking he had protected his son by teaching him to be distant. In reality, he had handed his son a grenade with a hair trigger. The secret was that the wealth wasn't just a trade for love, it was a leech that fed on the owner's isolation. The more Zandile helped the world, the more the world loved him, and the faster the stone grew. He was trapped in a paradox. To save the world, he had to break his own heart, but by breaking his own heart, he became the very thing he hated, his cold stone father. Zandile inherited the empire. In his 30s, he became the richest man on the continent. He built hospitals that never ran out of medicine. He invested in startups that became unicorns overnight. He was the billionaire saint. But his life was a calculated performance of distance. There was Nia, a woman of such grace she could make the rain stop to watch her walk. She loved Zandile deeply. One night, as they sat under the baobab stars, she reached out to whisper, I see the real you, Zandile. Immediately, a sharp pain shot through his ribs. The grey patch on his chest spread to his shoulder. He stood up, threw a check for $5 million at her and insulted her family until she ran away in tears. He saved his life, but he felt like a monster. He lived in a palace of glass, surrounded by thousands who toasted his name, yet he ate his dinner alone, terrified of a smile that might last too long. He realized that a gold house is still a prison if you cannot open the windows. While Zandile carried the literal weight of stone upon his heart, his outward actions created a ripple effect of prosperity that transformed the continent. He became known as the Rainmaker, not because he sought glory, but because he hoped that by easing the burdens of others, the spirit might eventually ease his own. He funded a massive project that combined irrigation with solar energy. He provided capital to market women, street hawkers, and young tech inventors. He built the lullaby hospitals. These were state-of-the-art facilities where the poor paid nothing and the rich paid triple. He would walk the halls of these hospitals, watching children wake up from surgeries healthy and whole, yet he knew no doctor in the world could heal his stone limbs. He was the ultimate physician who could not heal himself. By age 45, Zandile's left arm was entirely stone. He hid it under heavy custom-made African brocade robes. He walked with a limp. The world thought it was a polo injury, only Mama Effie knew the truth. "My son," she said, her voice cracking. "The bird cannot fly with a wing of rock. You are dying of riches. If I love, Mama, the business fails. Thousands of employees will lose their jobs. The hospitals will close. I am the pillar holding up the sky." "Then let the sky fall," she whispered. "It is better to be a living beggar than a decorated corpse." The true breaking point came during the Gala of 1,000 Suns, a celebration of his latest project, a city built entirely on green energy. As the elite of the world toasted him, Zandile saw Nia across the room. She had returned, older and more radiant, not seeking his money but seeking the truth of why he had been so cruel years before. She approached him, her eyes burning with a fire that threatened to melt his icy exterior. "Zandile," she whispered, "your eyes look like they are trapped behind a wall. Let me in." As she reached out to touch his cheek, the air in the ballroom grew heavy. The chandeliers began to vibrate. Zandile felt a hairline fracture spread across his chest. The stone was reacting to her proximity like a predator. "Get away from me," he roared, his voice sounding like two boulders grinding together. He fled the gala, jumping into his car and driving blindly into the night. He realized he was a golden ghost. He was helping millions, but he was becoming a literal statue in his own museum. One afternoon, Zandile's car broke down in a dusty outskirts village, a rare occurrence, as his cars usually fixed themselves by magic. As he waited, a woman approached. She wasn't a model or a scholar. She was a simple woman named Kulu, wearing a faded wrap, carrying a bucket of water. She tripped. The water splashed onto Zandile's expensive shoes. Kulu looked up, and she didn't see a billionaire. She saw a tired man with a heavy arm. She didn't ask for money. She didn't look in awe. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small bitter cola nut, and handed it to him. "You look like you have swallowed a secret that is too big for your belly," she said with a cheeky grin. "Eat this. It helps with the bitterness." For the first time in years, Zandile didn't feel a spark. He felt a disaster. He felt a wave of absolute, terrifying affection for this woman's irreverence. He felt love. The pain was agonizing. He collapsed. In his mind's eye, he saw his towers crumbling. He saw his bank accounts emptying. He saw his stone arm creeping toward his heart. He embraced it. "Take it all," he gasped. "I want to feel my own skin again." Zandile woke up 3 days later in a small hut. He reached for his chest. It was warm. He moved his left arm. It was flesh and bone. He expected his lawyers to be frantic, his wealth gone. Instead, his assistant arrived, beaming. "Sir, it's a miracle. The moment you collapsed, the Red Earth Investment Group, that shadowy firm that held 60% of our debt, simply vanished. Their contracts turned to dust. But because you had already diversified into real honest labor and community projects, the company didn't fail. It actually grew because the interest payments stopped." Zandile looked at his mother. "How?" he asked. Mama Effie smiled. "Your father told you the spirit demanded you never feel the touch of true love. But he forgot the second half of the proverb, the spirit only owns what is stolen. Your father stole his wealth through greed. You, Zandile, gave your wealth away for 20 years. You paid the debt back in kindness before the curse could even claim you. The stone wasn't a punishment for loving, it was a shell waiting for a fire hot enough to crack it." The transformation of Zandile from a living monument to a living man did not happen with a lightning bolt, but with the slow sweet rhythm of the seasons. After the Red Earth contract dissolved and his stone skin turned back to warm flesh, Zandile found himself in a strange position. He was still unimaginably wealthy, but for the first time, he was free to be small. As the months passed, Zandile's visits to see Kolu became daily. The villagers who initially stood in awe of the billionaire saint, eventually grew used to seeing him covered in mud, arguing with Kolu about the best time to plant yams. He fell in love not with a face or a status, but with the way she made him feel visible. To Kolu, he wasn't a lucky charm or a source of prosperity. He was just Zandile, a man who told bad jokes and was surprisingly terrible at making a fire. In his married life, Zandile discovered the ultimate secret. The hand that gives out of love never turns to stone. He remained a billionaire, but he dismantled his gilded vault. He and Kolu established vast agricultural cooperatives where he used his wealth to provide technology, while she provided the traditional wisdom of the land. The curse was gone. He could hug Kolu, kiss his mother, and high-five his friends without feeling that cold creeping grey patch on his chest. His investments still prospered, but now they grew at the pace of nature, not through a supernatural glitch. Zandile found his greatest fulfillment in the ordinary. He loved the feeling of his son's sticky hands on his face. He loved the way the rain felt on his shoulders. He realized that the secret pain of his past was actually a lesson in disguise. Wealth is a beautiful cloak, but you must never let it become your skin. For when the wind blows, it is the skin that feels the breeze, not the velvet. Zandile, the man who once feared the touch of another, lived the rest of his days as the richest man on the continent, not because of the gold in his banks but because his bed was warm, his heart was soft, and his hands, though callous from the garden, were undeniably, beautifully human. Never envy the man with the golden touch, for he may be starving for the feel of the wind. Like and subscribe.